Welcome, beautiful threat. Welcome, glorious disruption. Welcome, the one they never planned for. You ever notice how the whole machine looks invincible from far away? Big buildings, clean suits, perfect little smiles, fancy words, rules, timelines, deadlines, systems, and everybody around you acts like it's sacred, like it's permanent, like it can't be touched, like if you even breathe wrong near it, the whole world is going to punish you for being alive. That's how they keep people obedient. Not with truth, with theater, with performance, with fear dressed up like order. And then there's you. You came in bleeding, doubting, dragging old pain behind you like broken chains. You didn't look dangerous. That's the funny part. You looked tired. You looked overlooked. You looked like one more person they could step over while they kept their little empire moving. They thought you were too hurt to matter, too isolated to matter, too confused to matter, too late to matter. That was their first mistake, because the people who break systems are almost never the polished ones. They're the ones who got pushed too far, the ones who got lied to one time too many, the ones who sat in the dark long enough to hear the machinery humming behind the walls, the ones who learned the difference between being accepted and being used, the ones who stopped asking for permission to exist. That's when the cracks started. Not outside, inside you. That tiny, dangerous moment when you realized maybe the game was rigged from the beginning. Maybe you weren't failing life. Maybe life, as it was handed to you, was designed to keep you apologizing. Maybe all those voices telling you to stay in line were never trying to protect you. Maybe they were trying to protect their access to your obedience. That realization changes a person. You stop worshiping approval. You stop kneeling to people who only clap when you shrink. You stop calling survival a blessing when the price is your soul. You stop dressing your misery up as maturity. You stop confusing exhaustion with success. You stop mistaking numbness for peace. And the second that shift happened in you, the walls started shaking. See, they never just wanted your labor. They wanted your spirit arranged in a way that made you easy to predict, easy to shame, easy to replace, easy to threaten. That was the deal. Show up, behave, stay scared, compete with other broken people for scraps. Call it ambition, call it adulthood, call it just how the world works. Swallow your rage, silence your instincts, ignore the screaming in your chest, smile for the camera, clock in, scroll, compare, collapse, repeat. That was the system. And then you did the most unforgivable thing a controlled world can witness. You looked at the whole circus and said, no. Not polite. No. Not soft. No. Not maybe later. No. A dangerous no. A no with teeth in it. A no that came from years of betrayal, years of being underestimated, years of carrying pain quietly, while everybody assumed you were weak because you were quiet. You weren't weak. You were loading the weapon. You were learning. You were watching. You were collecting proof. Every fake friend, every manipulator, every boss who smiled while draining your life, every family voice that mistook ownership for love, every institution that fed on your fear and called it guidance. You were taking notes, and one day you stopped being a victim of the pattern and became the interruption. That is why they're furious. Not because you ran. People leave cages every day. They're furious because you left the cage and showed everyone else where the door was. That's different. That's catastrophic. Because most people don't need a map. They need evidence. They need to see one person do the impossible and survive it. One person reject the role. One person walk away from the script. One person refuse to collapse on command. One person say, "This is poison, and I'm done swallowing it." You became that evidence. And you don't even understand how threatening that is to a world built on silent compliance. You think your growth is private. It's not. You think your refusal is personal. It's not. You think when you stop begging, stop chasing, stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, that it only changes your life. Wrong. It sends a signal. It tells every exhausted soul watching from the shadows that escape is possible. It tells every person who feels trapped in a fake job, fake relationship, fake version of themselves, that there is another way to live besides being emotionally farmed for somebody else's comfort. That's why your transformation creates panic, because panic is what happens when control stops working. And let's be honest, you didn't break because you were weak. You broke because you kept trying to be strong in places that were designed to drain you. You kept trying to be loyal in rooms where loyalty was being weaponized against you. You kept trying to love people who were only interested in what they could extract. You kept giving grace to people who mistook your patience for permission. You gave and gave and gave, until one day your soul looked back at you and said, enough. That word changes destinies. Enough of shrinking. Enough of chasing people who only like the version of you that suffers quietly. Enough of pretending that your anxiety is random when it's being triggered by environments that betray your nervous system every single day. Enough of breaking your back for tables where your name was never truly respected. Enough of calling yourself lazy when you're actually burnt out from carrying emotional wars nobody helped you fight. Enough of being told to calm down when your spirit is reacting normally to abnormal levels of manipulation. Enough. And the version of you that rose after enough is not easy to control. That version sees through timing games. That version hears the emptiness in fake compliments. That version recognizes when be realistic really means stay small so I can stay comfortable. That version is dangerous because it no longer needs the applause of the people who benefit from its weakness. That version of you, that's the one they can't predict. That's the one that scares them. Because here's the truth nobody says out loud. Systems do not fear loud rebels nearly as much as they fear calm, healed, clear-eyed people. Loud rebels can be framed, smeared, mocked, distracted, turned into caricatures. But a person who is deeply awake, a person who sees the game, feels the trap, and still chooses themselves without asking permission, that kind of person is hard to bait, hard to shame, hard to control. You become unprofitable to broken structures. Think about that. Your insecurity made money for somebody. Your self-doubt kept somebody powerful. Your need for approval kept somebody relevant. Your silence kept somebody comfortable. Your fear kept somebody fed. And the second you stopped participating, a whole chain of invisible transactions started collapsing. That's why some people got weird when you changed. That's why some faces got colder when you became harder to manipulate. That's why people who never cared when you were crying suddenly started caring when you became unavailable. It was never about your well-being. It was about access. The old you was accessible. The old you could be guilted. The old you could be baited into over-explaining. The old you could be summoned with the smallest bit of attention. The old you could be used and then made to feel dramatic for noticing. But the new you watches energy, not words. The new you studies patterns, not promises. The new you doesn't get hypnotized by charm. The new you understands that some people only love what they can dominate. And once you see that, really see it, there's no going back to sleep. Now here comes the part that makes this beautiful. When one person wakes up, it creates discomfort. When millions start waking up, it becomes a crisis. That's what happened. You didn't just change your mindset, you became contagious. Not fake positivity contagious, not cheap quote contagious, real contagion. The kind that spreads when somebody finally tells the truth everybody else was terrified to admit. The kind that spreads when a person chooses dignity over belonging. The kind that spreads when someone stops performing wellness and actually starts cutting poison out of their life. People watched you detach from chaos and started questioning their own addictions to it. People watched you stop begging to be chosen and started wondering why they were still standing in lines that led nowhere. People watched you survive separation, betrayal, loneliness, rebuilding, reinvention, and they realized the threats that had been used to control them were not as powerful as they thought. That's the secret, isn't it? The system only works if fear feels bigger than freedom. The moment freedom feels bigger, the machine stutters. So they try to make freedom look terrifying. They tell people if you stop obeying, you'll end up alone. If you stop people-pleasing, you'll lose everybody. If you stop shrinking, you'll be judged. If you stop tolerating disrespect, you'll be called difficult. If you stop sacrificing your inner life for outer approval, you'll be labeled selfish. And maybe you were. Maybe they did call you crazy. Maybe they did say you changed. Maybe they did whisper when you walked away. Maybe they did try to punish your boundaries with silence, gossip, distance, passive aggression, or fake concern. Good. Let them. Because every insult from a manipulative system is often proof that your soul is finally moving in the right direction. You know what really enrages broken people? Not your pain, your recovery, not your struggle, your standards, not your confusion, your clarity. They can handle you bleeding, they just can't handle you healing in a way that removes their access forever. That's why they want the old you back. The old you was easier. The old you apologized faster. The old you tolerated nonsense because you were afraid of losing connection. The old you kept trying to explain your worth to people, committed to misunderstanding it. The old you confused being needed with being loved. But you know too much now. You know peace is expensive, and cheap people will always call it arrogance when they can no longer afford access to you. You know that some doors are meant to slam. You know some losses are actually rescue missions in disguise. You know that just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's holy. You know that being alone and being abandoned are not the same thing. You know how many people live surrounded and still empty. You know how many people are smiling with dead eyes because they traded their truth for membership. You know, and that knowledge changes how you walk. You stop moving like prey. You stop introducing yourself like an apology. You stop looking for permission slips from people who haven't even saved themselves. You stop asking little minds to validate large visions. You stop arguing with people whose entire identity depends on your limitation. You stop donating your life force to conversations that were never designed to understand you. And when you move like that, you give other people permission to move like that too. That's the real explosion, not noise. Permission. You became a mirror, a dangerous one, the kind that shows people what they already know but were too afraid to admit, that their relationship is killing them slowly, that their career is eating their soul, that their friend circle is built on performance, not care, that their discipline is actually self-punishment, that their constant busyness is a glamorous form of avoidance, that their whole life has been constructed around not disappointing others while they quietly disappear from themselves. Then they see you, Bruised, yes. Scarred, absolutely. But real, awake, unbought, and something inside them starts moving. That's when the running begins. Not physical running, spiritual running, mental running, emotional running. People start running from lies they used to decorate, running from fake goals, running from inherited fear, running from shame-based identities, running from all the voices that taught them survival, but never taught them freedom. And because of that, the machine loses bodies. It loses believers. It loses consumers. It loses obedient little ghosts. It loses people who used to say yes while dying inside. That's why they're furious with you. Because your existence exposed how fragile their whole operation really was. If one honest person can shake thousands, imagine what happens when millions stop pretending. Imagine what happens when people stop romanticizing burnout, when they stop confusing suffering with virtue, when they stop staying loyal to systems that would replace them in a heartbeat, when they stop worshiping titles, money, status, and surface-level validation while their inner life rots, when they stop calling self-betrayal being mature, when they stop raising children to be convenient instead of alive, when they stop submitting to dead routines that keep them numb enough not to rebel. Imagine that. That's not inspiration. That's insurrection of the soul. And you sparked it. Not because you're flawless, because you're honest. That's what makes this powerful. You weren't some untouchable superhero descending from the sky with perfect answers. You were a person dragged through confusion, disappointment, rejection, self-doubt, and spiritual exhaustion. You know what it feels like to cry in silence and still show up the next day. You know what it feels like to question your worth because the world only seemed to reward performance. You know what it feels like to give your all and still be treated like you were too much or not enough, depending on what made other people comfortable. That's why your voice hits harder, because it cost you something to find it. Anybody can talk big when life has been easy. But when somebody builds truth out of wreckage, people listen differently. They feel it. And people are starving for something real. They are tired of filters, tired of polished lies, tired of motivational fluff that sounds pretty but changes nothing. Tired of being told to just think positive while they're drowning in systems that profit from their depletion. Tired of being sold healing by people who still worship appearances. Tired of being asked to stay soft in places that feed on softness. They don't need another script. They need proof that transformation is ugly before it becomes powerful. They need proof that clarity can feel like grief before it feels like freedom. They need proof that walking away from poison can feel lonely before it feels holy. You became that proof. And no, it wasn't glamorous. Nobody claps for the nights you had to rebuild your mind from the floor up. Nobody sees the private wars, the days you almost went back just because familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar freedom. The moments you doubted your own instincts because gaslighting leaves fingerprints on the soul. The hours you spent fighting the urge to make yourself smaller just to keep peace with people who never offered you any. But you stayed with yourself. That is massive. Do you understand how rare that is? Most people betray themselves the second loneliness enters the room. Most people fold the second they are misunderstood. Most people return to chaos because calm feels unfamiliar. Most people run back to cages because the open door feels too big. But not you. You shook, you hurt, you questioned, you dragged your trembling heart through fire. But you kept going. That's the part they can't erase. And because you kept going, your life stopped being a warning and became a signal to the quiet one who knows their spirit is suffocating, a signal to the overgiver who has confused depletion with love, a signal to the man who was taught that emotional numbness is strength, a signal to the woman who has been shrinking so long she forgot the size of her own energy, a signal to the dreamer trapped under practical advice from people who settled for less and want company in their surrender, a signal to the lonely person scrolling through everybody else's performance while secretly feeling the ache of their own unlived life. You tell them, without even saying it directly, there is more than this. There is more than survival. There's more than obedience. There's more than pretending. There is more than being useful to people who never saw your soul. There is more than swallowing your rage until it turns into depression. There is more than earning your right to breathe. And once people hear that message in your life, not just your words, they start moving. That movement is the nightmare of every dead structure, because dead structures survive by convincing living people that numbness is normal. You ruined that illusion. You walked in carrying scars, and instead of letting the world turn you into another obedient shell, you let the pain sharpen your sight. You let betrayal teach you patterns. You let loneliness teach you self-respect. You let silence teach you discernment. You let loss teach you what not to worship ever again. Now you're not just harder to break, you're harder to fool, and that is worth more than applause. Because applause can be bought, trends can be bought, image can be bought. But inner freedom, that price is paid in blood, truth, grief, and nerve. You paid it, so walk like it, speak like it, choose like it. Stop handling yourself like you are still the version of you that didn't know. That version is gone. Stop negotiating with people who only return when your boundaries weaken. Stop begging at doors that only open when you bleed. Stop calling your intuition paranoia just because it exposes ugly truths faster than your comfort wants to accept them. Stop explaining your transformation to those committed to your old identity. Stop reducing your fire so insecure people can stand near you without feeling their own coldness. You are not here to make a broken operation feel safe. You are here to become so real that every fake thing around you starts malfunctioning. That is your power, not perfection, not popularity, not endless confidence. Truth, raw, expensive, dangerous truth. And truth has a smell to it. People know. They may not admit it, but they know. They can feel when somebody has suffered enough to stop performing. They can feel when somebody is no longer available for manipulation. They can feel when somebody has crossed that invisible line where fear still exists, but it no longer gets to drive. That's you now. You still feel it, don't you? The tension, the weird reactions, the sudden distance from people who used to love how easy you were to access. The quiet hostility, the fake confusion, the little punishments, the subtle attempts to make you feel guilty for becoming a person with standards, timing, boundaries, self-respect, and eyes that work.